Yo, what's up fam, and welcome to the channel. And if this is your first time on the channel, I'm Brandon Rico and I'm back here with another BeatMaker 3 tutorial. So in today's tutorial, what we're going to get into is some sampling, specifically sample looping. I'm going to show you how to use sample looping in BeatMaker 3 so that you can edit any live sample and turn it into a preset or playable instrument. So I know a lot of you already have some pre-existing one-shot samples and some synth samples, and you're trying to figure out how to play them as a playable instrument. Maybe you have some synth samples or even some vocal samples that you want to use as an instrument to play inside your beats. And yes, it's possible. So how do we do it? I'm gonna show you how I did it and why I did it and how it turned out. I think it actually turned out pretty cool. So I'm gonna flip you guys around and show you the source of the sample. Alright, so I have this beat that I was playing around with in Logic Pro, and I actually made a synthesizer which I named Trap Bass. It's actually a synthesizer created by me through the Alchemy plugin that's already built into Logic Pro. So what I did was I played this loop. So after I created that loop, I actually wanted to export those files, those two audio files into my iPad so that I could play around with them later. And my intention was to finish the beat on the go, but I ended up playing around with this bass because I thought to myself, what if I want to use that bass again and I'm not around my laptop to use it? So here's the bass again, and I'm going to show you what it sounds like solo. So I have the water keys muted. So I have that one-shot sample of that synth, so I exported it and airdropped that loop over to my iPad. So once I exported it over to my iPad, I opened it up in BeatMaker 3, and then I found the sample here in the samples folder. So after I found that sample, of course, I dragged and dropped it over to a pad, where it becomes a one-shot sample of that 8-bar loop that I played. So what we'll do is actually go into the sample editing tab, and then we'll turn it into a playable synth so that we can use that first one-shot, that first note that I played. And if you can see, those waves actually tell us when the note starts and when the note ends. So I'm gonna drag the end of this this marker, and that tells the playhead when to stop playing that loop. So as you can see, that after we set the end of that loop to stop right there, it actually cuts that sample off right there. But what if we wanted to hold on and sustain that note a little bit longer? This is how you do it. And this might be a feature that you probably see all the time, but you just overlook it all the time. So we're going to take the sample loop, and it says not looped. It says no loop right here. You can either loop it forward or you can loop it alternated. And my favorite way to loop a sample, especially for synths, is to loop it alternated. Looping it forward just plays that loop of where that sample actually originally started from. So you can see these little tabs over here. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see these little tabs over here that say S, LS, and then over here on the right hand side you see E and LE. So the S obviously starts for start, and then E obviously stands for end, the end of that loop. So presumably the LS stands for loop start, LE loop end. Self-explanatory. So the start of this sample actually, that is not what I meant to do. So the start of this sample actually starts this this loop off. And what we want to do is we want to have this loop start somewhere where you can see how those waves go in and out. You can see how the wave actually does this, And that's actually one of the reasons why I really like this bass and how it was created, because it was created because it has a whole lot of body in it, and it actually fills up the space of the beat. So with this particular sample, I've already made this a preset. So what we did was set the start point and the end point already, and it actually sounds like that. And you can see the playhead as I play it. You can see it stop it right there. So what we did was hit sample loop, and then we looped it alternated. The difference between looping it alternated and looping it forward is that when you play that loop, it'll just start over from where you originally started that loop start. With looping it alternated, however, you can see the loop starts here and ends there, right? So the loop start point. So looping it alternated, you can see the loop starts here, and then let's drag our loop end point here. So that's looping it forward, and then looping it alternated does this. It takes it back and then forward again, and it just ping pongs that back and forth. So it's actually like it's actually less seamless of a loop than it is when it's just looping forward, which is why that's my favorite way of actually looping that. So I've actually already made this a preset, and I've actually already dialed down and tweaked it to how I really like it. So I set my start point. So now that we have that set as a loop, I can press down on a key and it plays that continuously, right? And if you really want to get fancy, you can even do this with vocal samples. So I already have a vocal sample. I have a few vocal samples that in here. And then we use the same exact technique. So I set my start point. You can see that I set my start point here, and then I set my loop to loop in this area, so that it loops that sustain part. That loop stays in where that note was carried out. So it just ping pongs that sample back and forth within itself. And even something as cool as this. So the sample editor still works the same exact way while you're live stretching it. If you turn the live stretch on and off, you'll hear and actually see different results in how those loops are played. So if we set our start point somewhere else, it'll play everything before that loop starts, but it'll only sustain what is inside the loop start and the loop end. So now you have a playable instrument with your vocal samples, your synth samples, and you can play around with the different pitches and the different fine tunes of how those loops will be played back to you, and you can play different keys and different chord progressions with those one-shot loops. So we can go back to our beat. So we can actually go back to our beat, and then we can play with that sample. So just like we can hear it here, our original instrument that sounds just like this, and that's coming out of Logic Pro. We can do the same thing inside of BeatMaker 3 now, using the synth sample that we just created. And then even afterwards, you can add your own effects, and you can add your own effects and even tweak it to get it to sound exactly how you need it to sound inside of BeatMaker 3. So now I have a sustained note from that original sample. And now I can play with that same instrument inside of new beats using that same, just by using that sample. So if this video was helpful to you in any type of way, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button, because I'm here every week giving you tips and tricks on how to improve your workflow when you're making beats on the go. Or shoot, even making some beats right here in the studio. I got tips for days. So, with that being said, I'm Brandon Rico. Thanks for rocking with me. Thanks for rocking with the channel. And remember guys, if I can create like this, then you can create like this. I'm actually excited to see what you guys come up with using this method of sample looping, and see what type of samples you guys loop and what kind of samples you guys flip. This can get real crazy real fast. So tag me in your work. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter, or just let me know in the comments on how you guys are going to use this technique. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.